Hello, good morning. So we're gonna basically take up the study guide for lecture 12 today and fill in a few hormone charts and do a summary of what we've learned on Monday, and hopefully that's gonna help you remember the stuff a little bit better. So here we go. First question here. Name three pairs of antagonistic hormones and state the type of homeostasis they maintain. So once again, there are antagonistic hormones are hormones that basically work against each other. They have opposite effects, and in doing so, they maintain a certain set point for various homeostatic set point. And one of the first ones that we've learned is ADH, which is anti-diuretic hormone. Sorry, actually not ADH, aldosterone. I mean aldosterone, and aldosterone is going to help increase blood pressure. So this one increase BP by retaining sodium and water in the body. And the hormone that go against that would be the atrial natriuretic hormone. Okay, that would be a ANH for short, comes from the heart, and this one would lower the blood pressure. Okay, and together they maintain, yeah, it's blood pressure, but they do so by maintaining blood sodium level. Okay, through the regulation of blood sodium level, it would increase or decrease water retention in the blood, which would then affect the blood pressure. Okay, so that is, sorry, I think I spelled that wrong. Natriuretic. Yeah, natriuretic hormone. So that's the first pair of antagonistic hormone. Another one that we learned is PTH, parathyroid hormone. This is PTH. And the job of PTH is to increase blood calcium. And opposing parathyroid hormone is calcitonin, right, which is lower calcium. By putting it in the bones, reducing absorption from the filtrate. So together, these action would bring the calcium back down. Okay, I should mention these are the actions of the hormone, not the trigger. The trigger would be opposite, right? To trigger the release of calcitonin, it would be high blood calcium level, right? Because these are regulated through negative feedback. So the stimulus is always going to be opposite to the effects. So together they maintains blood calcium level. Next, we have glucagon. Glucagon is going to be released when you have low sugar level in the blood, and its action is to increase glucose. Okay. And to bring it down, it would be insulin, which would decrease glucose. They maintain blood glucose level. Okay, so I'm just gonna put here um, the bracket indicates the effect of each hormone, not the trigger. Okay. It's telling you what it does. All right. Over here, we've seen this picture a couple of times already, but let's just go through it again. Over here at the top, we have the hypothalamus. Now, we can always identify this structure to tell which side is the front of the head. This is the optic chiasma, which is where the optic nerve crosses the middle. We learned that in lecture 6, 7, maybe 7. Yeah. This region right here that connects the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland, it's called the infundibulum. In and then fundibulum. Seeing the optic chiasma here is on the left side. That means this is the front of the head, and so this would be the anterior pituitary. Which means this would be the posterior pituitary. Okay, which one stores hormone from hypothalamus? Is it the anterior or is it the posterior? Which one stores hormone made by the hypothalamus? Okay, if you didn't know that, it is the posterior. Thank you, Peace. Yeah, it's the posterior right here. So we're gonna have a bunch of neurons that again extend all the way to the posterior pituitary gland. That's the axon terminal right there. Right there, axon terminal, axon terminal. Okay, so I can put number 1 here. Produces antidiuretic hormone and the one that helps give birth and feed the baby. If you're thinking oxytocin, that would be correct. As a number through, transport it down the axon in vesicles. And then number 3, ADH and oxytocin are stored and released from posterior pituitary. So kind of like 3 separate steps here. The hormones are transported down the axon, right? That's what I mean. Now, on the other side, if you would, there are other neurons. So these neurons, they secrete 2 kinds of hormones. These are gonna, it's also gonna come out from here. It's gonna secrete um, releasing hormones And there are three releasing hormones we've learned. Any anyone remember what they are? You definitely need to remember them for the final test. They all end in RH. That's one way to remember it. But what are they? One for reproductive system, one for metabolism, and one for stress management, resource availability. What are the names of all the releasing hormones? Okay, why don't I give you a moment to look that up, perhaps? If you took the note on HPA last time, you will know. Yes, John, thank you so much. This is GnRH, TRH, and CRH. GnRH is for reproductive system control. TRH, thyroid releasing hormone, is to control metabolism. And CRH is to help control resource management, stress related pathway, chronic stress. So these things will travel through, there is network of capillaries here, then they would go and affect the anterior pituitary gland. And now remember, there are also like inhibiting hormones, which we have not learned, but I'll put them here. Inhibiting hormones. Okay. Not gonna worry about the names. Just know that they're there. And they would have an effect on the anterior pituitary gland. And for the anterior pituitary gland, there are non-tropic hormones. Okay, that does not affect another gland. What are the non-tropic hormones? Okay, think about it. Only two. There are only two non-tropic hormones. One of them is related to feeding the baby. The other one is related to, how can I say it without giving the name away? Help you get bigger, I guess. Growth hormone, that's right. Thank you, Elvis. Growth hormone. And prolactin, PRL, prolactin. Okay, this is for production of milk, and growth hormone is for growth. Okay, so these are non-tropic because they do not target another endocrine gland. Tropic hormones, we have FSH, LH, TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. And then the last one is harder to remember, okay, is AC, as in like adrenal cortex, and then TH. So if you have a highlighter, you can help yourself. And remember, okay, GnRH is related to FSH and LH. That's the green signal to release the FSH and LH. The TRH is the signal that will trigger the release of TSH. And then CRH will trigger the release of ACTH. And of course, each of these will have another target, okay, like somewhere else in the body, right? So there you have it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 hormones in this picture alone. Let's draw this couple times a day. You will remember it by Wednesday for sure. Okay. Moving on. We did this in class already. Not going to go through it again. This is the HPA pathways. We can go through it again just for review, for practice. Okay, so we have the reproductive system here. And then something something triggers the hypothalamus to secrete something something. So over here, let's do the female reproductive system. We have low, low progesterone. That would trigger the hypothalamus to secrete GnRH, a releasing hormone. GnRH then triggers the anterior pituitary gland to secrete, and you should be able to do this now. Okay. What tropic hormones are related to GnRH? You just say it to yourself. If you know the answer, saying it out loud will help you remember it. Follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Okay, we can even write the name. Follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Okay. Then what does it target? Well, we're using female as an example, so it targets the ovaries. And what's that going to do? Well, ovary is going to secrete, depending on which phase we're talking about, it could secrete estrogen, right, for the follicular phase, and then progesterone. Now, what does progesterone do? Progesterone will go back and have negative feedback. Negative feedback. It's going to shut it down. But estrogen, which is the first half of the cycle, it's actually going to go and have positive feedback. Positive feedback. So I guess what we can do here is decrease progesterone and increase estrogen. Okay. Again, this is a very watered down, simplified version, okay? If you read this stuff online, uh, it's so much more complicated. Just so, like, my point is don't do it, okay? Just stick with what I tell you. And if later on, when you learn more about it, it contradicts with this, it's normal, okay? Because this is very, like I said, just like introductory. Right? So there are some exceptions. Okay, uh, back to here. What does these things do? Well, estrogen and progesterone, they thickens the endometrium. Okay. Okay, so that's one path. Let's go through another path here for metabolism. Um, the colors don't mean much, okay? Like I'm just switching them around. Okay. So for metabolism, the trigger is drop in T3, T4. or drop in metabolism. That's going to release the brakes, right? It's going to take away the negative feedback. And then we're going to have another releasing hormone. And you should be thinking to yourself, which releasing hormone is it? There are three. There's GnRH, there is TRH, there's CRH. So this one is for metabolism. Everything in the metabolism pathway starts with a T. Okay, T3, T4, TRH. So this is thyroid releasing hormone. Okay, thyroid releasing hormone. Then triggers the anterior pituitary gland to secrete something else. So another tropic hormone. Again, everything in the metabolism starts with a T. This is TSH. Okay, thyroid stimulating hormone. And where is it going to target? Well, look at the name. Thyroid stimulating hormone is going to stimulate, of course, the thyroid. In response to the stimulation from TSH, the thyroid secretes T3 and T4. Remember, these things needs iodine to be created, and that's going to result in increased metabolism. Now, T3 and T4 are not the only hormones that are secreted by the thyroid gland. There is a third hormone not related to metabolism that's secreted by the thyroid. Just take a moment and try to think about what that is. What is the name of the third hormone that comes out of the thyroid? Not related to um, not related to metabolism, but related to homeostasis. That's right, it is calcitonin. Calcitonin. Very good. Okay, so just like be mindful about these things as you're studying, right? Let's try to recall related information. Okay, and then my next question is, oh, what's antagonistic to calcitonin? Calcitonin brings calcium down. What's the other hormone that brings it back up? We talked about it earlier today. What's opposite of calcitonin? Right? It's coming from the back of the thyroid gland. There are four little knobs, four little glands, and that would be the PTH, parathyroid hormone. Okay. Anyways, let's not digress too much. So what's going to happen with the T3 and T4? Well, T3 and T4, just like the progesterone, is going to go and act as a brake, right, to turn these things off. Again, the brakes, the negative feedback shouldn't be difficult to understand. Just like your heater. Once you get back to 20 degrees or 21 degrees, whatever, then you want to turn off the heat. Otherwise, it overheats, right? So you need a way to shut it off once you get to, normal metabolism. Okay, stress. Stress, we have perhaps low resources, okay, or low cortisol under normal circumstances. This is. And then we have one more RH here. And this one is CRH. The C is related to cortisol. This is cortical tropin releasing hormone. Again, I'm not gonna test you the full names, but knowing the full names will help you remember what it does. It might. I don't like I think it helps, okay? Rather than just memorizing a bunch of acronyms, I think the full names will help a little bit. You might disagree. Doesn't matter. Whatever works for you. That's gonna trigger the anterior pituitary gland to release the ACTH. Okay. Adrenal, see it tells you where to go, right? Adrenocortical tropic hormone. Okay. Even if you don't remember the T, at least remember adrenocortical, right? Because it tells you it's going to target the adrenal cortex. Okay. If you've forgotten, this is the kidney, and then the adrenal gland is on top. Outside is cortex, inside is medulla. And then it's gonna trigger the adrenal cortex to secrete two groups of hormones. The first one is called mineralocorticoids. These are steroid hormones that helps you maintain minerals. There are different ones. The main one is aldosterone. So again, this helps you conserve important minerals, sodium, ions, that kind of stuff. And then the other one is glucocorticoids. And the main one is cortisol. And just like the other examples, the cortisol will go back and engage in a negative feedback loop. The key difference here, if you remember our lecture on Monday, is that the CNS can shut this thing off. The CNS can override the brakes. Okay? During chronic stress. Okay. But what do these things do? Well, basically, they increase glucose availability, right? Increase conservation of ions and minerals. So, you know, you might be thinking, hey, isn't this like the job of like glucagon? Well, there are some overlaps, right? And the mechanism is different. For glucagon, you increase glucose by taking it out of the liver, but the cortisol will break down proteins and lipids and change them into glucose, right? So the mechanism is a little bit different, but there are some overlaps. So these are the three HPA. Okay. Questions? All right. Let's see what's next. Oh, okay. This is the master diagram. And let's go through it and and see what happens. All right. Now, I don't know what these people are thinking. Maybe they weren't. But there is the hypothalamus. They did not label the hypothalamus. There it is, hypothalamus. Okay. So why don't you do it? I'm gonna give you like, I don't know, 1 minute. Why don't you write down all the hormones that are produced by the hypothalamus? Right. We wrote it down a couple times already. Let's think about it. All right. What are they? Anybody want to share? Come on, the more you say it, the easier it is for you to remember. What are the hormones coming from hypothalamus? How many are there? How many have we learned, I should say? No? Too early? Okay. Five, that's right, there are five. So we have, again, GnRH. Let's just, do all the releasing hormone first. TRH and CRH. And then, of course, don't forget ADH, antidiuretic hormone, and oxytocin. Okay. Um, and then, of course, related to the hypothalamus, we have the pituitary gland, and the one on the right here, because the head is facing the right, this would be the anterior pituitary. And then this one at the back is the posterior pituitary. And posterior pituitary, of course, stores ADH and oxytocin, produced by the hypothalamus. And by now, again, I'm hopeful that you remember the anterior pituitary gland has non-tropic as well as tropic. Okay, so non-tropic, not targeting another endocrine gland. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm repeating myself, because I am, okay? Just trying to get it in your head. So which two hormones from the anterior pituitary gland does not affect another endocrine gland? One of them makes you grow, growth hormone. Okay, I don't think any of us here, if you are in this class, then you are probably at a certain age, and we're not going to be affected by growth hormone by this point. But at some point it did for us, right, during our adolescence year. And then there is PRL for making the milk. Remember, oxytocin and PRL both work together to feed the baby. PRL makes the milk, oxytocin lets it out. And for tropic, we have once again our FSH-LH, okay, and that's going to be under the regulation of GnRH. And then for the thyroid, we have TSH, and then the long one, ACTH. Again, if you have a highlighter, now is a good time to highlight these ones because they are related to each other. They are related to each other in terms of functions and control loops. Now this one right here on top, it's this is the pineal gland, and it secretes melatonin. Uh, Melatonin helps you sleep, fall asleep. There are two glands here. Which one is the thyroid? Which one is the thymus? Is the top one the thyroid or thymus? This one. What do you think? Thyroid or thymus? Yep, higher up is thyroid, okay? Thyroid gland. Thyroid gland. And how many hormones from the thyroid gland? Okay, let's think about it. Okay, think about what we've done with the thyroid gland. Okay. Three hormones. What are the three hormones from the thyroid gland? And there are two related to metabolism, which are T3. If you know T3, you know T4. And then there's another one, calcitonin. Calcitonin. And looking at my color scheme here, what should we highlight T3, T4 with? What are we going to highlight T3, T4 with? What color? Take a look at the highlighters. Should I do yellow, blue, or green? Blue is correct because TRH, thyroid releasing hormone, will trigger the release of TSH, which will then trigger the release of T3 and T4. And that in turns increases your metabolism. Now you cannot see this next one, so I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna pretend like we're peeking at the guy from the side, and you're gonna see like a little, maybe a little bit of the gland that's behind it, okay? But really, it's actually posterior behind the thyroid gland, and these are parathyroid gland. Parathyroid glands. And the parathyroid glands, they secrete parathyroid hormone. Parathyroid hormone. Okay, I'm gonna put a star here between the parathyroid hormone and the calcitonin. And just to remind you, they are antagonistic hormones to maintain calcium homeostasis. Calcitonin will bring it back down if it's too much. PTH will bring it back up when you don't have enough. When you have increase in calcium, you need calcitonin to bring it back down. Okay. All right. This is in front of the heart. That's your thymus. And thymus produces thymosin for T cell maturation. Okay, we're gonna move down further. And we have the adrenal glands. The outside of the adrenal glands, right here, that's the adrenal cortex. And the inside is the adrenal medulla. The cortex release aldosterone and cortisol. Remember, these are examples of a group of hormones, right? The mineralocorticoids and the glucocorticoids. We wrote it down, but you can leave it like that. These are for, again, resource availability management, chronic stress, and we can highlight it green along with the CRH, ACTH, right? Okay, like this is for resource management, okay, plus chronic stress. And if you want the blue is for, what's the blue? Metabolism. Adrenal medulla, we have epinephrine, which is also known as adrenaline. Same thing. And then the other one is norepinephrine. They pretty much do the same thing. Which is fight or flight response. Okay, so for immediate danger, it's the adrenal medulla that's going to be releasing the hormone that makes you feel the way you feel. And for long term, it's more of this one. Now we probably should put the heart here. There's a heart. And we know the heart secretes the ANH. We can put a star between ANH and aldosterone. Okay, I don't know. Just find some spot for it. This is for Na plus homeostasis. Okay, which in turns regulate BP, blood pressure. And maybe I'll put these together so they're in the same spot. These are antagonistic hormones, of course. Okay, almost there. Next, we have this guy right here. What is this? This is the pancreas. And the alpha cells, alpha islet cells, it's going to produce glucagon. Beta cells, they're going to produce insulin. And of course, by now, you should know that they are there to maintain glucose homeostasis. Okay. Now, just for I wouldn't say for fun, but then like a long time ago, we learned that the kidney also produce EPO, right? Erythropoietin to increase hematopoiesis, or red cell production, right? I'm just putting it here to remind you. You don't have to know it for the test, but for those of you who have been, really on top of things, I guess you might remember EPO. Yes. Well, actually, renin is not it's not a hormone. Renin is an enzyme. The difference between an enzyme and a hormone is hormone travel through the bloodstream to affect other organs, whereas an enzyme, they perform chemical reactions. Okay, there are no chemical reactions involved in hormones. Okay. But yes, the kidney releases renin as an enzyme, part of the RAS system. Ovaries over here. Ovary, ovary, I guess, just pointing at one of them. And the ovary produces progesterone and estrogen. Okay, the progesterone from corpus luteum and the estrogens from developing follicle. This would be the testicle or testosterone. Right, testosterone. So I'm going to highlight these three just to match with the GnRH and the FSH here. And when you're ready, I guess you can add a third color here for reproductive system. Okay, and what do we call these things? These are hypothalamic pituitary axes. Okay. This is the master study sheet for this unit. Okay, you print a few of these. Like I said, you fill it in a couple times from memory. Right? You're not going to get everything the first time, and that's okay. Right? Whatever you don't get, you go back, you study some more. Next time you fill it in. Right? You do it until you can complete the whole sheet without looking. That's going to get you ready for the final test. Okay? And you're not just doing it for my final test, right? Like if you are actually going on to other health-related programs, you will have to do anatomy again, just like a harder version of it. And usually they teach the endocrine system at the beginning. Okay. So it will be useful for you again. At least I hope it will. Any questions about this diagram? Anything else you think I missed, perhaps? I don't think I missed anything. Okay. Well. Let's move on. Here it is again. Um, you know what? Let's do it. Why not? Okay. I'm gonna give you a moment to fill this in. Okay. We've done this a few times already. Okay. Right here we have the hypothalamus. Okay. This is the AP. And then we have a bunch of stuff coming from the AP, which then affects a bunch of other stuff. So like what goes into these blanks? Okay, why don't I give you a moment? If you haven't done it yet, now is a good time to try it. I'm gonna get some more water. I'll be back. All right, here we go. What is the first one? Okay. This is our last class. Participate. Some of you, I have never heard your voice before. I wouldn't even recognize you if I see you in the hallway. So, participate. Last class. Tell me something. What's the answer? What comes out of the anterior pituitary gland that will affect bones and muscles? Growth hormone. That's right. Okay, I'm gonna put GH right here. Growth hormone. Okay. And then there's nothing else coming from it, right? That's why this is a non-tropic hormone. What about the mammillary glands? Okay, people usually get this one wrong. What comes out of the AP that affects the
Prolactin.
mammillary glands?
Prolactin.
That's right, the prolactin. Thank you. PRL, right? Not oxytocin, right? Because oxytocin is from the other one. It's from the PP, posterior pituitary gland, right? That's the oxytocin and then ADH. Use every opportunity you have to label everything in every diagram. That's how you can remember it. Okay? Like you waiting for a bus to come, take out some paper, start doodling these things. It's gonna help you. Okay, what about the testes and the ovaries? Testes, testicles, same thing. Yes, there is the FSH and of course the other one. FSH always goes with the other one. They are like traffic and withered, always together. There you go. FSH and LH. Okay, now that's gonna then, again, use every opportunities you have to review the stuff. You're gonna have progesterone coming out. You're gonna have estrogen coming out. You know what? Let's just write them out. Progesterone, testosterone, and estrogen, right? You see, these things will cause another gland to release more hormone. That's why they are tropic. These are non-tropic. They don't cause another gland to release more hormones. Okay, okay. Uh, I think you get the point. I hope you get the point. This is the thyroid. Thyroid. So another hormone. Yeah, from the thyroid, we will get T3, T4. Yeah. But what triggers the thyroid to release T3, T4? It is the TSH. Very good. Right. I didn't even see the answer. Yep, TSH right there. Good. And then I keep on saying this is the difficult one because people tend to forget, but hopefully I have mentioned it enough times that you remember. It's ACTH, which goes to the adrenal cortex to release. Okay, let's do the full name. We have the mineralocorticoids. Sometimes you gotta wonder who came up with these names. And the glucocorticoids. And remember, they're not a single hormone, they're a whole group of hormones. But we have our dominant one. We have our main one, aldosterone and cortisol. Again, if you have any kind of like ointment for inflammation, for acne, you can look at the name. It's probably cortisone. Cortisone is like the medicine version of cortisol. And we know long-term high levels of cortisol is going to dampen the immune system. And one of the ways it does that is suppresses, uh, uh, um, innate response like inflammation. So when you have an acne exposure episode, it's basically inflammation that you want to suppress. Okay, there you go. By the way, what bone is this? What is this bone right here? This bone that protects our precious pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is so small, yet it does so many things. Okay, but we need to protect it. What is this bone? There we go. In all caps, sphenoid bone. Excellent. Sphenoid bone. Okay, and this groove here is the horse saddle. That's what it means. Okay, sella turcica. Sella turcica. The groove. Okay, house the pituitary gland. You know, some people are born with a flattened pituitary gland. Okay. Uh, you see on the X-ray, like the bone is there, but then like inside is like just flattened, like a card box. Surprisingly, they will survive, but they need multiple hormone replacement therapy. Not surprisingly. I mean, it's surprising that they would be able to survive, but it's not surprising that you would need hormonal replacement therapy. Okay, again, if you are a fan of cue cards, this is the stuff that you would make cue cards out of. All right, so we have the function here, and then we gotta find the hormone. Basal metabolic hormone. Okay, these are hormone that controls your basal metabolic rate. Basal just means like baseline, normal. Okay, normal metabolic rate. There are two hormones that directly regulate your metabolism. That's right, T4. But don't just say T4. If you know T4, you know the other one as well, right? T4 and T3. T3, T4. There you go. They are, again, always together. Many things always goes together, okay? T3, T4. Essential for T cell maturation. So this would be thymosin. Right? So expect some matching question on the final test. You're going to have hormones on one side, you're going to function on the other side, you're going to match up which hormone does what. Okay, this one, most important hormone regulating the amount of calcium in the blood, released when calcium level drops. When you have low calcium level, you will need, very good, PTH, parathyroid hormone. Okay, and as you're doing it, you can think about where does these things come from. Well, parathyroid hormone, as the name tells you, comes from the parathyroid, which is behind the thyroid. Helps to protect the body during long-term stressful situation. Um, Cortisol, right? Aldosterone, and mostly cortisol. I would say cortisol. Okay, cortisol. It's part of the glucocorticoids, right? Okay, fight or flight. Look at the master study sheet, the one with the diagram. What hormones, more than one in this case, will trigger the fight or flight response? And my favorite example, angry dog running towards you. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna fight it? Are you gonna run away? Either case, you're gonna need this hormone. Gets your blood pumping. There you go. Epinephrine. And again, this is like a buddy system. Okay? The T3, T4 always together, epinephrine and norepinephrine always together. Necessary if glucose is to be taken up by body cells. After a full meal, we need insulin. There you go. Insulin from the beta cells in the pancreas. Beta cells in the pancreas. All right, 4 tropic hormones released from the anterior pituitary gland. I must have said this at least 6 times today. Okay, tropic hormones. Okay, what are they? There you go. Okay. FSH, LH, TSH, ACTH. Acts opposite to insulin. Again, look at the master diagram. If you don't know the answer, what works against insulin? If you are full after a meal, you need insulin to bring the sugar back down. But if you're fasting and you don't have enough glucose in the blood, what hormone will you need? That's right. It's glucagon. Yeah, glucagon. Glucagon. When glucose are gone, you need glucagon to bring it back up. That's how I remember it. Okay? Glucagon, when glucose are gone. Okay, hypothalamic hormone, which means it comes from the hypothalamus, and it's important in regulating water balance. Okay? That would be anti-diuretic hormone, ADH. ADH. Anterior pituitary hormone that regulate the ovarian cycle. Okay, it's coming from anterior pituitary gland, and if it's dealing with the reproductive system, the ovarian cycles, there are only 2. Follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. directly regulate the menstrual uterine cycle. So this like has a direct effect on the uterus, and it would be estrogen and progesterone. Okay, they will both thicken the endometrium in preparation for pregnancy, should it occur. Adrenal cortex, salt level, that's aldosterone. I always meant to fix this question, but I never got around to do it. Milk production is separate from letdown, okay? So you should know these are two separate things. Milk production, we need the one that's from anterior pituitary gland. Okay, that's prolactin. You can put PRL if you want. And then let down is oxytocin. Okay, again, I want to emphasize these two are not doing overlapping function, okay? They are distinct function. One for making milk, one for letting it down. Okay? Now, if you were able to answer most of these, then you're on a good path. Okay, just keep at it. You can do it. I can't help you memorize it. All I can do is like sound like a broken record, keep on repeating it to you. But you do that yourself. Okay, I'm not gonna fill this in. Okay, this is the gland, and you have to write all the hormone that comes from it. Okay, you can use the master sheet to help you. Okay, basically you just copy them over here. Okay, you do it, it will help you memorize it. Okay, same thing here. This is the other way around. Gives you the hormone, and then you tell me where it's from. Okay, so practice with these. Okay, let's do the hormone charts, and then we're gonna wrap things up. Okay, here we have a hormone chart for metabolism. Okay, so thyroid um, releasing hormone. Okay, where is it coming from? Well, if it ends with RH, then we know it's from the hypothalamus. What trigger the release of TRH? Well, you have to think back the whole pathway, right? Why do we need to turn this thing on to begin with? It's because you have low metabolism or low T3, T4. But what does it do? What does TRH do? Well, thyroid releasing hormone is going to trigger trigger anterior pituitary gland to release TSH. Okay, one thing leads to the next. Okay, next one, thyroid stimulating hormone. Where is it from? Well, if you read the previous one, thyroid stimulating hormone is from the anterior pituitary gland. We are basically rewriting the HPAs, right? The hypothalamic pituitary axis. And the stimulus for TSH, well, it's the previous thing. And then it will trigger the thyroid to release T3, T4. Okay, what's going to happen? I mean, what's next? Well, T3, T4, what's the organ? The gland? Again, just read the previous line. It is the thyroid gland. And it's increase in TSH. And the effects would be increased metabolism and also lower TRH and lower TSH through negative feedback. Okay. Okay, moving on. Uh, same situation here, but with the other pathway. Um, sorry, I'm just looking at something else here. Okay, CRH, the location, you know it by now. If it ends with RH, it is the hypothalamus. And in this case, the trigger is low cortisol. Okay, low resource availability. Okay, or chronic stress. All these are possible. And the effect is to trigger anterior pituitary gland to release ACTH. It's exactly the same wording as the previous chart. We just substitute TSH with ACTH, right? It's the same kind of pattern. And then location of secretion for ACTH is anterior pituitary. And to release ACTH from the anterior pituitary, you need the green light from hypothalamus. And the green light comes in the form of CRH. Because this is a tropic hormone, it will affect another gland, trigger the adrenal cortex to release the long name stuff. Okay, the main one here is aldosterone once again, and cortisol. Okay, we're going to be focusing on cortisol here. comes from the adrenal cortex in response to increased ACTH. So it's going to break down proteins and lipids to increase glucose availability. It's going to lower lower CRH and lower ACTH through negative feedback. Now I'm going to put a star here with the negative feedback. And what am I going to say? I've been telling you this a couple times. You know what I'm going to say? What am I going to write with this pink asterisk? Voluntary shutdown. Yeah, pretty much. Not so much voluntary though. Like nobody chooses to be, stressed out voluntarily. But when you're stressed out, the CNS override during chronic stress. And that's a scary thing about stress. Like you don't know it. You don't know you're stressed out until you feel the effects from it. Okay, can't sleep, feeling anxious, tired, overwork. All right. And then over here, uh, complete the following chart with insulin and glucagon. Location of secretion. For insulin, it is the pancreas. And remember, these are the beta cells, beta islet cells. Okay, whereas here, this is the alpha islet cells, alpha. Just remember, there's an A in glucagon, alpha cells. When do you need insulin? When you have an increase in blood glucose. After a meal. If you had breakfast before coming to class, you probably have insulin in your system right now. If you did not have breakfast before coming to class, you probably have glucagon instead. Skipping a meal, sometimes skipping multiple meals, low glucose. You need glucagon. When glucose are gone, you need glucagon. If you hear me saying that in your head during the test, then I've done my job right. And with these little tiny slogans to help you remember it. Okay, what do we do with all the extra glucose? Well, the insulin is going to promote cells to absorb glucose. Take them up, use them in cellular respiration, make ATP. Be happy about it. Perhaps you ate a little bit too much. What are we going to do with the extra glucose? It's going to promote the liver to convert glucose into glycogen. Do not confuse glycogen with glucagon. Glycogen is the storage form of glucose in liver and muscle. Glucagon is the hormone. So when you don't have enough glucose, where should we get it? Well, they say, make hay while the sun shines. So when you had enough, you store some extra. So when you need it, you just reverse it. Promote the liver is the other way around, okay? To convert glycogen into glucose. Okay, you're not gonna tell the cells to cough back out the glucose, okay? You can't do that because the cells actually needs the glucose, right? They are the one who needs the glucose to make ATP, right? So you can't take it from them, but you can take it from your liver reserve. Okay, that is that. I'm sure you can handle the long answer questions. Let's take a look at the application question here. Okay, it says Jamie has hypothyroidism. And so the example we learned in class was iodine deficiency, but there are other causes of iodine of hypothyroidism. So this question says the doctor ruled out iodine deficiency as a cause. Right, so we know that's not the problem. So he ordered a blood test for T3, T4, and TSH. Explain how the results will be different if the problem arises from the hypothalamus and pituitary or thyroid gland. Okay, so let's write out the normal path. Right, TRH from hypothalamus, TSH, and T3, T4. So if the problem is here, right, problem with the hypothalamus, then what's going to happen is it's likely, so we'll say hypothalamus problem. Okay. In other words, like you cannot make TRH. That's what the question is implying, right? So if you cannot make TRH, you will have low TRH. Following low TRH, you would have low TSH. And following low TSH, you would have low T3, T4. Right? So that's the problem with if that's the result, sorry, that's the expected result if the problem arises from the hypothalamus. What if the problem arises from anterior pituitary gland? Well, if that's the case, the person would have normal TRH because the hypothalamus is going to be, pumping it out. Um, but the anterior pituitary gland, there's some problem with it. Okay, it's not able to produce TSH, so it's gonna be low TSH. And with low TSH, we have low T3, T4. If it's a thyroid problem, you let's say you have enough iodine, but then there's some other problem with the thyroid. It's not making the hormones. Okay, could be cancer, could be other conditions. Then you will have high TRH, high TSH, okay, but you will have low T3 and T4. Okay, so like it depends where the problem arises, the test results will be different. What about goiter? Okay, which of these scenarios would you expect a person to have goiter? All of them, first one, second one, last one. Think about it for a second. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Well, goiter is as a result of overstimulation of the thyroid. Okay, overstimulation of the thyroid. Of the three scenarios here, the only one that has overstimulation of thyroid is this last one because of the high TSH. Over here, TSH is low. Nothing is stimulating the thyroid. So you're not going to have goiter. Okay. There's no autoreactive antibodies or anything like that. Okay. And same thing over here. There's no stimulation. So only the last one will have goiter. Does that make sense? All right. Pitocin is a synthetic version of the hormone oxytocin. A woman in the final week of pregnancy who is giving an injection of Pitocin, what is expected outcome? Okay, so like I said, the oxytocin is needed for uterine contraction. Normally, the oxytocin release is initially triggered by the baby's head pushing towards the cervix. Okay, when the baby gets too big towards the end of the pregnancy, gravity is going to basically cause the baby's head to push on the cervix, and that starts the release of the initial dose of oxytocin. And then the positive feedback to the brain, back to the uterus, keeps on exaggerating it, and then the mother goes to labor, right? But if for some reason there is not enough stimulation to trigger that initial dose of oxytocin to be released naturally, then they would be given the synthetic version of it. Okay. Once you inject the uh, Pictocin here into the mother's bloodstream, that would trigger the initial wave of contraction. And once you have that initial wave of contraction, that would send signal to the person's brain, the posterior pituitary gland, to release natural oxytocin. And then it keeps going. So basically, this Pitocin is like starting the domino effect. Okay. All you need is to push the first one, and then everything is gonna go on its own afterwards, right? Um, so it's not like you need a continuous supply of this thing. Once the body takes over, then the labor is going to commence, and it's not going to stop until the baby comes out. All right, that is everything I have for you. There is, of course, the lab that is due, lab quiz that's due next Monday, I believe. And I'm not gonna take up the lab with you, okay? I think you can do that on your own. I provided the answer for you this time. Okay, so just check your answer against it. Lots of useful videos for you to go through in the PowerPoint, so don't miss those. And this is your test number 3. The description is wrong. Let me just quickly change it before I forget. It covers, of course, what is it? 9 to 12. Is it 9 to 12? No, 10 to 12. 10 to 12. Okay, but the lab quiz includes the urinary stuff as well. There is a review package, and then there's some answers for you to check as well. If you run into any trouble, feel free to email me. I will definitely get back to you before the exam. And no more classes, okay? This is our last face-to-face class. You just do your own studies on Monday and get ready for the final test on Wednesday, which will be available to you until the end of that day. 40 multiple choice, 10 multi-select questions, 75 minutes, just like the usual. All right. So thank you so much, everybody, for being in my class, especially for those of you who've been with me since first semester. I really hope you will do very well in the course and in the program, and wish you all the best for the future academic career as well. There is one question here. Is there only one attempt for the lab and the final test? Yes, there is only one attempt. one attempt with the cameras on and everything. Okay, so please study hard and make it count. Okay, if you ever need a reference from me, please just email me. Okay, I will do my best to support you. Take care, guys. Bye bye.